Die-hard fans of cult web series Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared rejoice! After 2 years of radio silence, the new DHMIS teaser dropped recently that gave fans hope for the next season. The web series ended after 5 trippy years and 6 violent installations, but views kept pouring in even after they stopped making new episodes. Now, Blink Industries, the producers of the original show, are teaming up with Super Deluxe and Conan O'Brien's Conoco for the next season, and I am hyped! But let's be real, this show is weird and confusing, so let's go over some of the details together, okay? I'm Whitney Van Laningham, and today we're gonna deep dive into some theories and explanations about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Alright, so what is Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared exactly? It's a weird, messed up, surrealist web series that uses live actors in costume, puppets, stop motion, and animation to tell the story of 4 main puppets: Yellow Guy, Red Guy, Duck, and Roy. The plot mirrors that of an episode of Sesame Street, with a teacher in each video who sings a musical lesson to our protagonists. Of course, unlike in Sesame Street, each episode usually ends in blood, gore, and extreme violence. Artistically, there's a lot to unpack here. I hope this isn't boring for you, but I was a film major, goddammit, and I haven't used my degree even once since 2012, so let me live! There are at least 3 genres of film represented here, with 3 different mediums of film incorporated. Let's start with the genres. As I mentioned a second ago, this is a surrealist short film series, which we know because it has that sort of dreamlike quality to it and a clear juxtaposition of ordinary characters and objects in a rational form. Simply put, it's trippy as hell, and definitely reminds me of some of my favorite surrealist films like Holy Motors, Mood Indigo, and The Science of Sleep. Seeking to bring the unconscious mind to a visual medium, surrealist films are often used as a commentary on life, death, money, religion, politics, modernity, and art. We know there's a whole lot of life and death themes in DHMIS, like when Duck's organs get eaten out of his body, or when the butterfly bee little baby pigeon thing shows the yellow guy a world of love. That cool rainbow land ultimately turns into a cult situation, ticking off the religion box, and we're shown several times throughout the show that money plays a big factor in the subconscious of this storyline. Then you've got a human heart covered in glitter, a bunch of blood at a picnic, and a guy getting his own organ slurped down by a huge smiling puppet, showing off the grotesque juxtaposed against the beautiful. There's actually a ton of postmodern concepts lurking around every corner in this series, like the example of Simulacro when Red Guy walks in on a substitute replica of his show. The carnivalesque imagery of meat and blood and gore threaded seamlessly throughout the adorable claymation and in puppeted scenes is a great example of trying to reintroduce horrific concepts into the bright, carefree imagery in this series. It's also a paragon of reflexivity, aka the postmodern practice of making films about actual filmmaking, as seen in certain clips that seem to suggest that the characters are on a TV set. And then there's the biggest postmodern concept of all represented in these episodes: telesemy. Telesemy translates literally to many voices, and means that Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared has no end to interpretation. Another film theorist pointed out that there are even a few hints of Gothic literature, explaining that the show is, quote, tapping into the same cultural fear of a violent subconscious hiding beneath the facade of normality. In DHMIS, horrifying, dark, creepy shiz is always lurking behind the happy, puppety surface. The live action and puppet medium pulls from children's TV shows, as each character on the show represents a different type of puppet from kids' television. The yellow guy is the human puppet, like Walter from the Muppet Movie, the duck is the animal puppet, like Big Bird from Sesame Street, and the red guy is the mystery monster puppet, like Muno from Yo Gabba Gabba. Unlike in these other series, however, the live actors in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared play an extremely minimal background role. There's no Tim Curry from Muppet Treasure Island or Jack Black cameo on this show. The first time we really see a human is right before the red guy's brain explodes, and even then, the guy is fully dehumanized in an opaque full bodysuit. Later on in the Bad Things That Could Happen short, human beings are literally used as furniture and appliances, reducing their exposure even further. Don't Hug Me may draw elements from all of these art styles, but what is it actually about? Well, every DHMIS fan has their own theory about what the actual storyline behind the surrealist plot is, and that's what makes watching the show so much fun. Let's go over the 3 main theories, starting with the Purgatory Theory. Some fans have theorized that the red guy, the yellow guy, and the duck are all trapped in some sort of a weird puppet purgatory, and that all 3 are unable to move on with their lives and truly die until they learn to stop being seduced by its passive subconscious pull. Obviously, this puppet world seems like a mostly terrible hang, so maybe this is their punishment until they're able to fight back against the urge to stay complacent in this nightmare limbo. In Dante's Inferno, late repentant souls are trapped in purgatory when they're unable to receive their last rites before their violent, untimely death. but it seems to be the opposite in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Instead of dying violently to get in, it seems like you have to die violently to get out. For example, the red guy's head literally explodes, the duck is eviscerated, canned, and eaten, and the yellow guy drowns in oil. Some have even theorized that the red guy is the only one who successfully got out because we don't actually see the duck or the yellow guy on the outside, and it seems as though he's constantly trying to contact his friends who are still trapped down there. All of the red affects, like the red phone, the red door, blah blah blah, are instances of the red guy trying to encourage his friends to move on to the next life. There also has to be some sort of supernatural element to all this, because immediately after the red guy dies, the yellow guy and the duck completely forget about him. The yellow guy must have forgotten about the duck guy immediately too, because otherwise it's real Jeffrey Dahmer of him to eat his friend out of a can. If this is true, it could additionally explain why they don't recognize themselves on their own missing posters. This theory would be able to tie into the repetition of the date June 19th, because if they really are trapped in purgatory, they might be Bill Murray living Groundhog Day over and over again until they're finally able to break out. Even though I love this theory, the biggest hole for me is figuring out who or what exactly Roy represents. His character is obviously sinister, if not evil, but at the same time, he can't be Satan because Satan doesn't really hang out in purgatory. The TV show theory. This seems to be the most popular theory about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, as supposed by the film theorists. Basically, here's the gist. The puppets are all part of a TV show produced by Roy, whose name is listed in the credits as one of the Kickstarter backers. The show was the red guy's idea, but his initial dream has been corrupted by the money-hungry media. It all starts with the date June 19th, or 1906 as they write it out in England. If you zoom in really close in one of the picture frames in the show, you can see that it says June 6, 1955, which also happens to be the same date that British television network ITV1 started placing ads in their TV shows. Even though TV had already been chugging along with commercials like this in the US for quite some time, England was pissed. They didn't want dumb advertisements in their shows, and I can't disagree. Netflix shows are honestly such a luxury. This kicks off the whole theory that everything that happens in this series is a metaphor for the way media corrupts all of us. The scenes where the red guy is in the real world are flashbacks to when he had a dream of starting his very own children's show. Most of his friends and coworkers booed him or told him his idea was stupid, but Roy saw the value in his creativity and offered to back the show. The theory continues from there that the red guy slowly watches as his show becomes more and more of a sellout. The creativity episode represents big media conglomerates, the FCC, and other network standards and practices stifling the creativity of their creators, just to fit into some stupid little box, make money, and stay popular. The whole green isn't a creative color thing is a metaphor for the ways in which the powers that be are able to tell you how to structure your creativity, even though imagination is one of the few things that we as people don't have to put a restriction on. I also feel like when the Notebook pours the oil all over the yellow guy's clown painting, it was giving a rigid formula for exactly how to make a viral hit. We also get one of the first big hints that this whole thing is just a television show inside of a web series when the film style changes to animation, and we see a whole new POV of cameras, mics, and studio equipment. In the Time episode, we also see the yellow guy get violently shut down when the duck tries to present a more specific, less vague idea of what time really means. It's like Roy and the other producers behind the red guy's show are actively trying to dumb down these characters through brainwashing and constant random ADD distractions like taking a bath or spacing out on the internet. This is a metaphor for how TV kind of makes us motivationless zombies, zoning out on the important parts of life until time passes us by and we're melting and morphing and dying like that Nazi at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Before Tony the Clock starts singing the Time song, Red Guy seemingly asks a camera op or the director who the hell he is, but doesn't get a response. That fourth wall break gave me more reason to believe that this show is about an actual children's show. The message in the Love episode is pretty clear. The media convinces all of us that we're lonely and ugly and worthless, but that if we follow exactly what they say, we'll find happiness and peace. The reality is, no amount of makeup or good looks or material things can make you happy. Just like how some asshole butterfly can't make you feel bad about yourself if you don't let him. After being seduced by the possibilities of the love land beyond the rainbow, the yellow guy finds out the hard way that he's actually being sucked into a cult that worships a giant statue head called Malcolm. To me, this also ties in with the surrealist representation of religion. In this metaphor, we're shown that the love certain religions preach can get bastardized when you love your God more than you love your fellow man. The The narrative in the song switches pretty quickly from "everyone here loves you" to "if you don't worship Malcolm with gravel, you will be unloved and worthless again, and also probably dead." In the digital episode, we see the effect that the media has in controlling consumerism through targeted advertisements. Have you ever been scrolling through Instagram or Facebook and seen an ad for something you were just talking about in real life? Yup, that's what this is. The episode opens up with our guys sitting around a card table playing board games and interacting with each other, when all of a sudden a computer comes to life and teaches them about leaving their real selves in the real world behind to control a new version of yourself in the digital world. This is also commentary on the way people hide behind their keyboards or online personas when communicating or processing information online. I'm looking at you, YouTube comment section. Red Guy is able to pull himself out of the digital world and into the real world, where a digital apparition of Yellow Guy and Duck Guy appear before him in the darkness. In the corner, you can barely make out the silhouette of Roy, but don't worry, he's there. This theory supposes that Roy is using too many commercial advertisements and using too much digital space to create Red Guy's show, and Red Guy pieces out before he becomes a total sellout. Once on the outside, he has no control over his show anymore, and walks in on a low-budget simulacra of his original show. We even see him in a mocap suit, just like that scene in that surrealist film I mentioned earlier, Holy Motors. But then his head explodes. Ouch. The healthy episode comes at us with a whole bunch of Roy stuff, so hang in there. We pick up with the Duck and the Yellow Guy in the aftermath of their friend's death, and they can't seem to remember him at all, despite the fact that there are numerous photos of him around the house, and Duck keeps insisting that something is terribly wrong. As usual in this series, the next teachers come in amidst the horror of losing their friend, co-star, whatever, and immediately start singing an incredibly convoluted song about health. We see a number of grain-based food products, all with Roy's name on them, suggesting that this is how Roy had enough money to fund the show. Besides being a television producer, it also looks like he owns a major food brand. This explains all of the subliminal advertising and product placement in each of the scenes, and why all of the foods that are good for you are plain, bland, and wheat or dairy based. They even try to make Yellow Guy's pizza bland by pouring white sauce all over it. Gross. Here's where the 1906 comes back into play. In 1906, Kellogg's cereal was founded by a guy who believed that eating plain, bland foods would hype up your sex drive. And Roy has a product called Roy's Flakes. Coincidence? I think not. At the end of the healthy episode, it's revealed that the Duck somehow managed to break the fourth wall and enter the real world, where he's subsequently sliced open, eviscerated, and eaten alive by a giant can. The can, I guess, spews him out into a bunch of tiny little cans, and in the confusion of the healthy eating song, Yellow Guy eats like all of Duck. Okay, I get that he's brainwashed, but I'm pretty sure nothing could ever make me okay with eating Chris. Unless she was covered in Diablo sauce. Spicy Chris.
Why are you looking at me like that?
No reason. The last episode in the current series kicks off with Yellow Guy being tortured with sleep deprivation, and Red Guy unable to save him from the hot oil. We also see the clips of what Matt Pat thinks are flashbacks to Red Guy's former life as a boring office guy before Roy agreed to produce his TV show, and we come full circle. In the end, Roy struggles to contain his show, and Roy calmly allows Red Guy to pull the plug, resulting in the low-budget regeneration of the show he wanted to film all along. Still, even though I was able to add in my own thoughts and opinions to supplement this theory and make it feel plausible to me, a few things still don't feel right. If Roy's just the producer of the show, why is he so goddamn scary? Why is he involved with their kidnappings and the help shorts? Why is he always such a dick to his son? Those questions about Roy's dark demeanor kept plaguing me, so I started to look into the kidnapping theory. Okay, this one can also open up with a June 19th symbol, namely the fact that June 19th is usually right around Father's Day in the UK. In fact, their very first episode was released on June 19th, 2011. We know from appearance, photos, and character statements that Roy is Yellow Guy's father, and this theory supposes that maybe Roy is like a really gross dad and has kidnapped his son's friends. What if Roy is holding his son and his friends hostage, and their willingness to participate in the teaching videos is nothing more than that sweet, sweet combination of brainwashing, breakdowns, and Stockholm Syndrome? Maybe I've watched a little too much Law & Order SVU, but this really feels like a kidnapping to me. There are tons of real-life examples of captors who actually care for their victims, allowing them to lead somewhat normal lives during their captivity. It's horrible to think about, but you gotta admit it's totally possible. Although Roy has actually kidnapped the other two boys, the person he takes most of his rage out on is his son, Yellow Guy. Even if these things didn't happen by Roy's direct hand, we know from his in-character interview in It's Nice That magazine that Roy is taking Yellow Guy on a trip to Punish Land for allowing his eyes to grow arrogant and rude. Who even knows what that means, but Roy seems to be following up on his end of the bargain. Yellow Guy is always the one who gets the short end of the stick in each episode, like when his clown painting gets oil spilled on it, or when his friends crush a bee in front of him and scare him. He's also constantly surrounded by things that he hates, like horses, trees, eggs, and meat, which Roy probably has something to do with. The dude is just so creepy! Just standing there like the goddamn Texas Chainsaw Massacre, never saying a word, lurking around in the dark in his overalls. Yeesh. Homeboy gives me the creeps. Luckily, once all the characters are presumably dead and replaced with a new copy of themselves, it seems like Father's Day is finally over. We see the date on the calendar change from June 19th to June 20th, symbolizing the end of Roy's domination over the guys. We might never know a true definitive story behind the making of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, and that's okay. In an interview with Metro UK, Becky Sloan was quoted saying, "We have read a lot of theories about what it all means, and they are all correct." And there's that postmodern concept Pulesemy for ya. The more voices out there putting their own interpretation on this series, the more fun it is to try to keep guessing. Heck yeah, film school! Guess you were finally good for something after all. Got any of your own theories about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared? Let me know in the comments below. How do you guys feel about this series coming to an actual TV network after the entire series basically dissed the medium? Am I dumb and screwed up some aspect of postmodern theory that you want to yell at me about? Go for it! And make sure to keep watching our videos on Roku.